As a little girl, I always dreamt of being married. This is something I used to think about a lot and even fantasize. I remember then I used to write a lot about my thoughts, my dreams, my desires about marriage. And when I became a young adult, I decided that, okay, 25 was a good age to get married. And so, but then in my early 20s, I moved to the UK to do my master's degree. And whilst I was here, I realized that my personality changed. Normally I'm this kind of person that if I walk into a room or if I go anywhere, I socialize with, like, socializing was nothing to me. Like, talking to people, interacting with people, whether I know you or I don't know, it was something that came naturally to me. I'm very easy. But when I came to this country, I found that I just kind of I don't know if I'll say I went back into my shell. And so I found it really hard interacting with people. And the church I went to back then, it had lots of singles, like, and the age group, like young single people that are young and single, 20 to 30s, 40s, even 50-year-olds. Basically, all the age groups of single people could be found there. So, like, there were lots of eligible, I don't know, bachelors and spinsters there, but I just found that they weren't really interacting with each other. It was almost like, even if you're desiring to be in a relationship or desiring to be married, it's like, oh, you're being too extra, you need to hide. It was almost like it was a shameful thing. That was the vibe that I got from there. But then I was in this cell group, and in the cell group, I used to share a lot about my desire to be married. So there's this thing I usually do called future testimonies. Is where when I desire something, I usually go ahead and give a testimony about it, saying that, oh, it has happened for me just in a future. But I tell people, it's not like I'm lying saying I have something or something has happened that hasn't happened. I usually tell them that this is a future testimony, So I testify about that thing. And it's something that I've been doing for a very long time, and it usually works for me. Anyway, so in my cell meeting, when they ask, does anyone have a testimony, I'll put up my hand and I'll testify about my husband, say different things about him, so this is what I was doing for a while. But then I just found that it was hard for me to really mix up there. And because of the whole attitude towards marriage, at some point I decided to leave and go to a church where I'll be more comfortable, and just more comfortable expressing myself, expressing my worship to God and all of that, and my praise. So someone very close to me recommended the church to me, and I went looking for the church, but I didn't find it for whatever reason. I missed my way and I didn't find the church. So I ended up going to a different church. And in this church I went to, it was like 90 to 95% of the church members were all single. And again, you have like singles in their 50s, 60s, and then you have young singles around my age group as well. But it was like everyone was single, and I just felt at this point I started doing my PhD, my PhD, and I wasn't making lots of friends in other circles. It was a really, really small church it was a very, very small church with almost everyone being single. And I just felt like I'm not having the opportunity to interact here with lots of people as I would like to be. Remember, my natural personality, even if at this point I've kind of sort of reclined into myself, my natural inclination is to interact with people, to be around people, to make friends, but in this place I really wasn't having that opportunity as well to express myself, being that at this point I was going from uni to home to church, just these three places. That was literally my itinerary, trying to get my PhD sorted, and I was working at the university as well. So I was like living a triangular life: university, home, church, university, home, church. And the PhD journey is a lonely one, to be honest, because you don't have classmates. It's not like undergrad that you have lots of classmates, you attend classes regularly. With PhD, you don't have classmates. You have different people studying different things, and then you might attend one or two classes, or maybe when you go to do some research at the university, you meet people, So if you want to socialize, you need to find those avenues yourself to expand your network of people. So I wasn't having that, and I then got back to thinking and saying, oh, I need a space to socialize. I need a Christian environment where I can meet like-minded people, similar values, freely socialize, and just, have a good time with them. And so I went back to look for that church that was recommended to me earlier. This was like a year before. I think a year had passed now. So I went back looking for the church, and this time I found it, and I started going to church, going there. And it was a really nice experience because I met lots of people around. So now this church was a different dynamic, there's obviously it wasn't like a church for young people or old people or middle-aged people. You had the whole works there. And it was a church that celebrated family life, celebrated marriages. You had lots of weddings happening in the church, people within the church getting married to each other, lots of singles, So I like the dynamic of the church. I like the demography. And so I stayed there, and it was a good time. My social life obviously became very different because I now had more opportunities to mingle with other young Christians similar to myself. And it was in the process of mingling and making friends that I then met my husband. So I'm just sharing this story because the Christian Singles Networking events that we're putting up at Wise Attraction, the main goal is to see godly marriages formed, to see godly homes built, and for the name of the Lord to be glorified, because godly seeds will come from these marriages, which is one of the purposes of marriage. You see, marriage is so important that it was woven into the fabric of humanity right from creation. In the beginning, from Genesis chapter 2, you see the idea, the concept, the whole the process and the concept of marriage was already introduced to show you how important it is to God. Now, I know, on the other hand, I know that there are some people that they've really tried in this area, and it's an area of hurt and pain because you've been desiring, praying and wanting it, and it just hasn't happened. And I just pray that the Lord heals your heart if this is your experience. But I'd also encourage you to attend this event. Let this event be your action for faith, especially if marriage is one of the things you've been praying for. I don't think you should just sit there. And by my story, I'm not encouraging people to hop from one church to the other. That's not what I'm saying. I mean, find a place where you can express your faith, where you can serve God, and where you can express yourself, And if you have a desire to be married, don't let anyone make you feel like it's a bad desire or it's something to hide. It's a beautiful thing, and it's a God-given desire. Or what you just need to make sure is that when you're meeting people, you use an eye of discernment. And this is whether or not you meet them in church or whether or not they tell you that they are a Christian, because sometimes in the church is where people have the worst relationship experiences because they are not discerning enough. So don't assume, and don't tag the church in a negative light because you've had a negative experience in relationship. Everyone has an individual faith to pursue, and remember that when going into a relationship with someone, you have to be discerning. You have to make sure that you're choosing someone with the right values, someone that lives what they say, so that you can have a good experience. So this is me once again inviting you to our Christian Singles Networking event. It's happening on the 8th of June. It's in Rotherham in South Yorkshire. It's in the Catcliffe Memorial Hall. You can use the link below to find out more details about the event, and I look forward to seeing you there.